I want to start by saying I love my job. I mean, truly loved it. For 12 years, Northwood High was more than just a place where I punched the clock. It was home. I taught American history and literature, and I ran the debate club. The kids, bless their hearts, they call me Document, not Mr. Tate. Always document. I'm Marcus Tate, and I am a black man who found his calling standing in front of a whiteboard, trying to convince teenagers that the past mattered. I pushed them hard. I expected excellence, and they gave it to me. They knew I had the credentials. They knew I had the knowledge. They knew I wasn't just some guy reading out of a textbook. That's why the title mattered. Dr. Tate. It wasn't just for show. It was a key that unlocked their respect, especially in a school where too many students thought education was just a hurdle to jump. They saw that I had pushed myself to the absolute top of the academic ladder, earning that PhD in historical studies. Everything was fine. Better than fine. Actually, I was up for Teacher of the Year. I had just gotten a memo from Principal Harrison praising the debate team's state championship win. I was living the American dream, the one where hard work and dedication pay off. Then Mr. Harrison came into the staff lounge on a Tuesday afternoon. Harrison was new. He'd been with us maybe 8 months, and he was the definition of bureaucracy. He wore a suit that was too tight, smelled perpetually of bad cologne, and he treated every teacher like a liability waiting to happen. He was obsessed with audits, compliance, and making sure every T was crossed and every I was dotted. He didn't care about the passion. He cared about the paperwork. He walked straight over to me. The lounge went silent. When Harrison walked, he didn't just walk. He created a wake of tension. Dr. Tate, he said, and the way he used the title sounded like an accusation, not a courtesy. Yes, Principal Harrison? I set down my lukewarm coffee. A word, please. In my office. Now. My gut dropped. It always does when administration uses the word now. It means something broke, and they think you're the one who broke it. I followed him down the long, echoing hallway. The walls were lined with photos of past graduating classes, faces that blurred together, kids I had taught, kids who had gone off to college, kids who had come back to visit me. I thought about those kids. They were my legacy. When we got his office, he didn't even offer me a seat. He walked around his massive oak desk, which looked like it had been carved out of an ancient redwood, and pointed to a stack of manila folders. We've been conducting a comprehensive administrative review, he started, adjusting his tie nervously. A deep dive into staff credentials. Standard procedure, Mr. Tate. Just making sure we are compliant with state educational standards. I understand, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I felt fine. My file was immaculate. I had sent in all my transcripts years ago when I first applied. He picked up a blue folder. My folder, the one with my name, Marcus Elijah Tate, stamped on the tab. You listed a PhD in historical studies from Boston University, correct? Graduated spring 2008. That's correct, Principal Harrison. And you have been using the title Dr. Tate on all official school correspondence, email signatures, and classroom materials since your tenure began, correct? Yes, because I earned it. Harrison didn't look at me. He looked down at the paper in his hand. He took a deep breath, the kind of breath that signals a conversation is about to go sideways. Well, Mr. Tate, this is where we have a problem. My heart started thumping against my ribs. What problem? Did they misplace a transcript? Did they need a notarized copy of my diploma? It was a decade and a half ago. We contacted the registrar's office at Boston University, he continued, speaking slowly, deliberately, as if he were reading a legal brief. We asked them to verify your degree, dates of attendance, dissertation title, graduation status, the whole 9 yards. He finally looked up, and his eyes, usually cold, were now hard and accusatory. Mr. Tate, Boston University has absolutely no record of a Marcus Elijah Tate graduating with a PhD in historical studies in 2008. They have no record of you completing the necessary coursework. In fact, they state that the name does not appear in their doctoral alumni database at all. The air went out of the room. It was like I'd been hit in the chest with a sack of bricks. I stumbled back half a step, hitting my knee on the corner of a filing cabinet. That's impossible, I stammered. My mouth was dry. There has to be a mistake. I have the diploma. I did the work. Do you have the diploma here? Right now, he challenged. No, it's framed at home, but I can bring it in tomorrow, or I can call the university myself. Harrison shook his head, a slow, condescending motion. We've already done our due diligence, Mr. Tate. We followed up with their archive department. We even cross-referenced your stated dissertation title, The Unseen Architects, Black Labor and the Reconstruction of the South. They confirmed that dissertation was written, but not by a Marcus Elijah Tate. It was written by an individual named, wait for it, he tapped the paper dramatically, an individual named Elias Vance. And that dissertation was defended in 2006, not 2008. The name hit me like a physical blow. Elias Vance. I felt the blood drain from my face. I knew Elias Vance better than anyone. Elias Vance was my life before the fire, before the change. Principal Harrison, this is complicated. I managed, trying to buy time, trying to figure out how much of the truth I could possibly reveal without destroying everything I had built. Complicated. Harrison scoffed, leaning forward. No, Mr. Tate, this isn't complicated. This is professional misconduct. This is fraud. You have spent 12 years collecting a salary based on credentials you fabricated. You have been misleading students, parents, and this entire administration. He reached into the folder and pulled out a pre-printed letterhead. It was a termination notice. Effective immediately, your employment at Northwood High School is terminated for cause. You are required to gather your personal belongings from your classroom under supervision, turn in your keys, and vacate the premises by the end of the day. I felt a cold rush of panic mixed with a deep, burning humiliation. Fired. Not just let go, but fired for lying. And the worst part? The accusation technically was true. The paperwork didn't match. Marcus Tate didn't earn that PhD. Elias Vance did. You can't do this. I whispered. I just did, Harrison replied, his voice devoid of sympathy. The integrity of this institution demands that we hold our staff to the highest ethical standards. Lying about a doctorate degree is grounds for immediate termination. He pushed the letter across the desk. The ink was already dry. This wasn't conversation. It was an execution. I have already notified security, who will escort you to your classroom to ensure only personal items are removed, and then they will escort you off school grounds. I expect a smooth transition, Mr. Tate. I didn't argue anymore. What was the point? He wouldn't listen to the truth. The truth wasn't simple. The truth was messy, dangerous, and tied to a past I thought I had buried forever. Walking back to my classroom, room 304, felt like walking through a fog. My mind raced. How did Harrison find a discrepancy? University records are usually rock solid. Why did the registrar only find Elias Vance and not the subsequent name change? The security guard, a big, quiet man named Dale, walked a respectful 2 steps behind me. Dale had a son in my history class. He looked genuinely upset. I'm sorry, Doc. Dale murmured as we reached the door. I managed a weak smile. It's fine, Dale. Just a misunderstanding. When I stepped into room 304, the students were already gone. Thankfully, it was my planning period. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows. illuminating the dust motes dancing over my desk. The room was a monument to my career. Maps, historical timelines I had drawn by hand. Student essays stacked neatly for grading and a huge banner reading. History isn't just dates, it's decisions. I started packing. It was surreal. 12 years of my life condensed into a single cardboard box. I grabbed the pictures of my wife, Sarah, and our 2 daughters. I swept the books off the shelves. The worn copies of Zen and Du Bois, the annotated copies of Beloved and Invisible Man. As I packed, my mind drifted back to the name, Elias Vance. When I was Elias Vance, I wasn't a high school teacher. I was a researcher, a historian focused on civil rights cold cases, digging deep into the archives of southern states, trying to find justice for families decades after the fact. The research for my PhD had taken me into dangerous territory, uncovering corruption, connecting police departments to hate groups, and stepping on the toes of some very powerful, very connected people in the Deep South. It wasn't just academic work. It was investigative journalism disguised as history. I had defended my dissertation successfully. I was Dr. Vance. I accepted a postdoc fellowship. Then, 6 months later, everything shattered. It happened on a cold night in rural Alabama. I was working on a case involving a vanished activist from 1971. I had just found the key piece of evidence, a confession letter tucked away in an old county courthouse archive. I was driving back to my motel when the car lights blinded me. They ran me off the road. It wasn't a robbery. They didn't take my wallet or my laptop. They took the evidence, and they left a message, a clear, physical message that I should stop digging. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital far from where the wreck happened. My car was totaled. My jaw was wired shut, and the local authorities seemed very uninterested in investigating the accident. That's when the FBI stepped in, not to help me prosecute the men who did it, but to offer me a choice. The agent, a stern woman named Agent Carver, sat by my bedside. She told me that the people I had been investigating were untouchable, highly organized, and now considered me a significant threat. If I stayed Elias Vance, I was a dead man. You earned that degree, Elias, she said, her voice low and serious. You earned it the hard way. But if you walk out of this hospital as Elias Vance, you won't make it 6 months. They know your face, they know your work, and they know where you live. She offered me the witness protection program, not because I was a witness to a crime, but because my research had exposed a network so deep that my safety and the integrity of the information I had gathered depended on my absolute disappearance. I agreed. I had to. I had Sarah then, but we weren't married yet. We were just engaged. The thought of putting her in danger was unbearable. The process was brutal. The destruction of Elias Vance. The creation of Marcus Tate. New birth certificate. New social security number. New driver's license. A completely new life, relocated thousands of miles away to the suburbs of a safe, unremarkable city. The FBI handled all the details. They created a new, plausible backstory for Marcus Tate, complete with a fabricated undergraduate degree from a small, defunct college. But the PhD was real, and it was the one piece of intellectual property I couldn't bear to give up. It proved I was worthy of Sarah, worthy of my own respect. Agent Carver promised me they would handle the university records. They would create a new sealed file for Marcus Tate at Boston University, ensuring that any external inquiry would hit a firewall. They told me that Marcus Tate had the degree, but the paperwork would be protected by federal mandate. They assured me only a high-level government subpoena could break that seal. They had lied. Or maybe they hadn't lied, but the system had failed. Mr. Harrison's administrative audit, that bureaucratic deep dive he was so proud of, had somehow bypassed a federal firewall that was supposed to protect me. Maybe the agent who set up the file retired. Maybe the new registrar at BU just didn't know about the classified override. The realization hit me hard as I packed my old, worn copy of The Souls of Black Folk. Harrison didn't find a lie. He found a ghost. He found the administrative residue of a federally mandated identity change. And now, because of clerical error, my life was once again in danger. If Harrison could find out that Marcus Tate didn't exist in the BU database, how long would it take for the people who wanted Elias Vance silent to find out that Elias Vance had reappeared as a high school teacher in Northwood? I finished packing the box. Dale picked it up gently. "I'm really going to miss your classes, Doc," he said, his voice heavy. "Me too, Dale. Me too." We walked back to the main office. When I handed Harrison my keys, the metal felt cold and heavy in my hand. "Before I go, Principal Harrison," I said, keeping my voice low and level, "I need to tell you something. That degree, it's real. But the reason the name doesn't match is far beyond a simple clerical error. It's a matter of national security." Harrison blinked at me, a look of pure disdain washing over his face. "National security, Mr. Tate? You're going to trot out that tired old conspiracy theory? Next, you'll tell me you're a secret operative for the CIA." He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Just take your box and leave. I have a school to run." "You don't understand," I insisted, stepping closer, lowering my voice so only he could hear. "If you pursue this, if you start sending my file to other departments, if you start talking about Elias Vance to the wrong people, you're going to put me, my family, and potentially this entire school at risk." "I'm calling your bluff, Mr. Tate," he sneered. "You are a fired teacher attempting to intimidate your former employer with fantastic tales of espionage. It's pathetic. Now get out." I knew then that I couldn't just leave. If I walked out, Harrison would continue digging, convinced he was exposing a clever fraudster. He'd publish the findings, boast about his due diligence, and inadvertently paint a huge target on my back. I had to prove it. I had to show him the truth. "Fine," I said, my voice hardening. "You want proof? You want to know why Marcus Tate doesn't exist in that file? I'll give you the exact name and number of the person who created Marcus Tate. But I need to do it privately. This needs to be done under absolute confidentiality." Harrison sighed dramatically, clearly viewing this as a ridiculous final desperate act. 10 minutes. My office. Now. And if this is another lie, I will call the police for trespassing. Dale set the box down by the door. I walked back into the office, feeling the weight of 12 years of secrecy pressing down on me. I knew that pulling back the curtain on Elias Vance meant destroying the safe, quiet life Marcus Tate had built. But if I didn't, the people who almost killed Elias Vance would finish the job. I sat down, pulling out my phone. I didn't call Sarah. I called a number I hadn't dialed in 12 years, a number I was supposed to destroy. It rang 3 times before a crisp, professional voice answered. "This line is restricted. Identify yourself." "This is Elias Vance," I said, the name feeling foreign on my tongue. "I need Agent Carver. Now, tell her that Northwood High School just violated the terms of my protection and that the file is compromised." I waited, heart pounding, while the line clicked and went silent. Harrison watched me, arms crossed, a smug, satisfied look plastered on his face. He was clearly ready to call my bluff. "Who are you calling, Mr. Tate?" "Your acting coach," he mocked. Just then, the phone crackled, and a woman's voice, the voice I remember from the hospital bedside, came through the receiver, sharp and urgent. "Vance, this is Carver. You know the rules. Why are you activating this line?" "The school," I explained quickly, keeping my voice low. "The principal did an audit. He found the Elias Vance file at BU. He's fired me for fraud. He is threatening to go public with a discrepancy. There was a moment of silence on the line, heavy and terrifying. "Stay right there, Vance. Do not move. I am sending a team. Do not, under any circumstances, discuss the nature of your previous work or your identity change with anyone." She hung up. Harrison, who had only heard my half of the conversation, straightened up, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. "Who was that?" he demanded. "Who did you just call?" "That Principal Harrison," I said, standing up and placing the phone on the desk, "was the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They handle my paperwork." Harrison's face went from smug disbelief to genuine alarm. "The FBI? For a teaching credential issue?" "They'll be here shortly." I confirmed. "You told me you wanted proof that the degree was real and that the mismatch was a serious issue. You're about to get it." I waited. Harrison was pacing now, muttering about lawsuits and how he was just following protocol. He clearly thought I had called some low-level agent who would confirm the fraud and validate his termination decision. But I knew Agent Carver. She didn't send low-level agents for compromised identity files. It took less than 15 minutes. The sound started subtly, a distant siren, not the loud, casual wail of local police, but the tighter, more controlled sound of federal vehicles. Then, the flashing lights filled Harrison's window, blue and red, strobing across the walls. Two massive black SUVs, unmarked, pulled right up onto the sidewalk outside the main entrance. Before Harrison could even reach the intercom, the office doors burst open. 3 people entered. 2 men in dark suits, built like linebackers, wearing earpieces, and 1 woman, Agent Carver. She was older, sharper, and radiating authority. She ignored Harrison entirely, walking straight toward me. "Vance," she stated, her voice cutting through the tension. "Are you secure? Has anyone else seen the documentation?" "Only Principal Harrison," I replied, nodding toward the man who was now frozen behind his desk, looking like he'd just seen a ghost. Carver finally turned her attention to Harrison. She didn't introduce herself. She didn't ask his name. She simply walked up to the oak desk, put her hands flat on the wood, and leaned in close. "Principal Harrison," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You have just committed a profound error in judgment that has compromised a long-term, classified federal operation. I suggest you close your mouth, sit down, and not utter a single word until I tell you to. Do you understand?" Harrison tried to sputter a defense. I was just checking the credentials." He lied about his PhD. Carver didn't raise her voice, but the intensity in her eyes was chilling. "The individual standing here, Marcus Tate, is a highly decorated academic whose identity was changed by this agency due to credible threats against his life resulting from his historical research. His PhD is real. It is sealed, and your administrative audit just blew that seal wide open." She looked down at the termination letter still sitting on his desk. She picked it up, tore it into small pieces, and dropped them into his wastebasket. "This termination is null and void. You will reinstate Dr. Tate immediately. You will tell your staff and any other person who asks that the discrepancy was a high-level administrative error on the university side, which has been corrected." Harrison was pale. Not just a little pale, but the kind of ashen white that suggested all the blood had drained directly into his shoes. He looked like he was about to faint. "But the paperwork, Elias Vance," he stammered. Carver sighed, a sound of deep, professional exasperation. She pulled a small, laminated card from her coat pocket and flicked it onto the desk. It was an FBI badge and ID. "The paperwork, Principal Harrison, is a ghost created by the U.S. government. And now, thanks to your diligence, we have to deal with a very real possibility that the people who tried to kill Dr. Tate 12 years ago might realize he's back." She turned to her team. "Sweep the perimeter. We need to know who else has accessed the university's registrar data in the last 48 hours. Secure the school's network. We are in lockdown. The two agents moved instantly. The sound of their footsteps echoed down the empty hallway. Harrison stared at the badge, then at me, then back at the badge. He had gone from arrogant bureaucrat to a terrified civil servant in a matter of seconds. He understood now that he hadn't uncovered a simple fraud. He had stumbled into a hole far deeper and darker than he could ever imagine. The consequences of his paperwork fetish were suddenly terrifyingly real. He looked up at me, his eyes wide and pleading. "Dr. Tate, I am so sorry. I didn't know." I just looked at him, the man who had ruined my life for a second time, simply because he loved rules more than people. "You didn't know, Principal Harrison." I agreed, "but now you do, and now we have to deal with what you've done." I had the job back, but I had lost my peace. The ghost of Elias Vance was out of the bottle, and the people who hunted him were about to follow the trail straight to Northwood High. Carver didn't waste another second on Principal Harrison. He was irrelevant now, a collateral casualty of his own ambition. She had bigger fish to fry. She turned to me, her expression professional and grim. "Vance, we're compromised. The secondary alert system tripped, but we don't know how deep the exposure is. We need to assume the network you investigated, the one that tried to bury you, is still active and monitoring these kinds of data anomalies." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. It was a realization that 12 years of peace, 12 years of raising a family in safety, had just evaporated because of a man obsessed with checking boxes. Harrison, still frozen, managed to choke out a question. What happens now?" Carver finally looked at him, and her gaze was pure ice. "What happens now, Principal Harrison, is that you become the most silent man in the state of Ohio. You will forget the names Elias Vance, Agent Carver, and Boston University. You will issue a public statement tomorrow morning. First thing, stating that the administrative audit revealed a unique error in the university's federal filing system, which has now been fully corrected, and that Dr. Tate credentials are not only valid but beyond reproach." She leaned closer. "If you deviate from that script by a single syllable, if you breathe a word of the FBI or of national security or of the name Elias Vance, I will personally ensure that your career ends not just in this school district, but in the entire educational system of the United States. Do you understand the gravity of that, sir?" Harrison nodded frantically, his expensive tie now loose, his face glistening with sweat. Yes, I understand. Corrected. Administrative error. Dr. Tate is reinstated." Carver didn't wait for reassurance. She turned back to me. "Vance, the plan is simple. We initiate immediate extraction protocol. Your family is already being moved to a secure location. You will join them within the hour. New city, new identities. This time, there will be no academic paper trail whatsoever. We bury Marcus Tate, just as we buried Elias Vance." My heart sank. New identities. Again, my girls. Pulling them out of their schools, away from their friends, forcing Sarah to leave the garden she finally loved. We had spent 12 years building Marcus Tate's life brick by secure brick. I couldn't do it again. I couldn't start over. I was tired of running. "No," I said firmly. Carver paused. Her eyebrows arched slightly, the only sign of surprise she allowed. "Excuse me, Vance." I said no. "I'm not running again, Agent Carver. Elias Vance ran. Marcus Tate stays." She frowned, stepping closer. The two linebackers stood near the door, observing the tension. "This is a negotiation, Vance. Your safety is paramount. The people you expose were not amateurs. They're methodical. If they discover you're still here, they will find a way to silence you." "Then let them try," I countered, my voice gaining strength. I'm done living in fear. I earned this life. I earned the respect of those kids who call me Doc. I earned that promotion I was up for. I am a father, a husband, and a teacher. I am not some ghost waiting for the next relocation order. I looked straight into her eyes. You told me 12 years ago that the system would protect me. It failed. Harrison's cheap administrative audit broke your firewall. If I run every time a bureaucrat does his job badly, I'll never have a life. I need to finish this here. Carver studied me for a long moment. She was calculating the risk, assessing my resolve. She had known Elias Vance as a dedicated, almost reckless researcher. She was seeing Marcus Tate, the determined teacher. If you stay, she finally said, the threat level goes to critical. We can't guarantee your safety 24/7. We can provide resources, but you become a fixed target. I understand the risk, I replied, but I also understand that I have a life worth defending. If they come for me, let them come here. Let them come to Northwood High. I'm not leaving my family or my students. Carver nodded slowly. All right, Dr. Tate. If you insist on staying, we change the protocol. This school is now under covert federal protection. We will embed 2 full-time surveillance assets. They will be teachers, custodians, or substitutes. You won't know who they are, but they will be watching. Your family will also receive protective details, disguised as neighbors or community workers. She turned to Harrison, who was listening with his mouth slightly open. Principal Harrison, this is your new life. You will ensure Dr. Tate has immediate, unrestricted access to anything he needs. Scheduling flexibility, office access, anything. You are his shield, not his supervisor. If anything happens to him, even a flat tire that looks suspicious, you'll be held personally accountable for compromising a federal asset. Do I make myself absolutely clear? Harrison swallowed hard. Crystal clear, Agent Carver. Good. Carver picked up the tattered remnants of the termination letter from the wastebasket. Now, I need to see the server room. We need to trace every outbound query Harrison made to BU. We need to know if the network has already found the trail. She gave me a curt nod. Go home. Vance, hug your wife. Tell her nothing beyond a clerical error has been fixed. We'll be in touch. I walked out of Harrison's office, feeling lighter than I had in 12 years, despite the immense danger. The secret was out, but the fear was gone. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I was a man who had chosen to stand his ground. The next morning, I walked back into Northwood High. The air felt different. It was quieter, heavier. Harrison was waiting for me at the entrance, his face still pale. He looked less like an administrator and more like a man who hadn't slept in 3 days. Dr. Tate, he whispered, usher me away from the students flooding the halls. I've already contacted the faculty. The official story is that the administrative error has been corrected. Your status is fully restored. And, I've canceled my plans for the next few weeks. I'll be here if you need anything at all. He was terrified, but his terror was my protection. I walked into room 304. It was exactly as I had left it, the box of my belongings still sitting by the door. I put the box back under my desk. I didn't need it. I was staying. When the bell rang, signaling the start of first period, my American history class shuffled in. They were teenagers, distracted, loud, and wonderful. A junior named Kevin, one of my debate team stars, walked up to my desk. Doc, we heard what happened yesterday. Is everything okay? I smiled, a genuine, relaxed smile that reached my eyes. Everything is more than okay, Kevin. Just a little paperwork snafu. Turns out, when you get a degree as old as mine, the university sometimes misfiles the documents. So you're still Doc Tate? I am still Doc Tate. I confirmed. And you still have a massive research paper due next week. So grab your seat. The class settled down. I picked up a piece of chalk and turned toward the whiteboard. The topic for the day was the rise of Jim Crow and the persistent fight for civil rights. As I started lecturing, I scanned the room. Was the substitute teacher sitting in the back corner, the quiet woman with the sharp eyes, one of Carver's agents? Was the new janitor I saw sweeping the hallway earlier this morning wearing an earpiece? I didn't know, and I couldn't afford to worry about it. My focus had to be on the students. I taught with more passion that day than I had in years. The urgency of my own situation fueled my lecture. I talked about courage, about standing up to injustice, and about the cost of freedom. That night, when I got home, Sarah met me at the door. She looked worried, but she didn't ask about the audit. She asked about the kids. "They missed you, Marcus," she said. "I miss them too," I replied, hugging her tight. I looked out the window at the quiet suburban street. 2 houses down, a new family had moved in yesterday, a friendly couple who seemed overly interested in neighborhood watch programs. Probably Carver's team. I knew the peace was conditional now. I knew that the people who hunted Elias Vance were probably already on my trail, alerted by the system breach. It might take them weeks, months, or even a year to find Northwood High, but they would come. But this time I wasn't alone. I had the FBI watching my back, and I had a community that respected and loved Dr. Tate. I walked into the kitchen, picked up a stack of essays, and sat down at the table. I was grading a paper on Booker T. Washington when my phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. Asterisk, stay alert. We have identified a suspicious query originating from the Atlanta area. It's moving slow, but it's moving. Asterisk, I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I looked down at the essay. The student had written a thoughtful paragraph about the importance of integrity, even when facing overwhelming opposition. I picked up my red pen, made a small note of praise, and circled back the name on the essay. Kevin. I was Marcus Tate. I was a teacher. I had survived the fire, and I wouldn't let them burn my life down again. I had chosen my battlefield. It was room 304 at Northwood High. Let the past come. I was ready for class.